This video was brought to you by Brilliant. When Sunak came to power a month or so ago, the Conservatives' poll ratings were in the dumps. After Liz Truss's disastrous and short-lived premiership, Labour had opened up a 30-point lead, and the Conservatives were on track to lose a vast majority of their seats at the next election. However, when Sunak replaced Truss, most pollsters expected him to enjoy a so-called honeymoon period, which is the period after an appointment where a Prime Minister usually sees a jump in their poll ratings. But after just a few weeks in office and barely any movement in the headline voting figures, the Conservatives' polling numbers have once again begun to decline, and it looks like that Sunak's honeymoon period might already be over. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the latest poll numbers, whether Sunak has any chance of recovering before 2024, and if he doesn't, whether this could truly spell the end of the Conservatives. So let's start by taking a look at polling. At the end of Truss's tenure, things were not looking good for the Conservatives. On October 20th, the day of Truss's resignation, Politico's poll aggregator had Labour 30 points ahead, with Labour on 52% and Truss's Tories on 22%. For context, if these results had actually happened in a general election, the Tories would win just 16 seats, making them the fourth largest party after Labour, the SNP, and the Lib Dems, according to analysis by the Electoral Calculus. Now, Truss's own personal approval ratings were also rock bottom, with her last Redfield-Wilton poll putting her net approval rating at -77, which, for context, puts her slightly below Vladimir Putin. When Sunak came to office, though, everyone expected the Conservatives' poll numbers to suddenly improve. And this wasn't just because Sunak was relatively popular and Truss was the most unpopular Prime Minister in history, but also because new Prime Ministers always enjoy the so-called honeymoon period, where you usually see a spike in performance after they enter number 10. And you can see exactly this phenomenon when you look at the approval ratings of previous prime ministers. Their popularity spikes as soon as they enter office, before coming back down again in the succeeding months. And to be fair, this is sort of what happened. In his first week, Sunak's net approval rating jumped from +2 to +12, and Labour's poll lead did start narrowing. According to Politico's poll of polls, by early November, Labour were down to 49 seats, and the Conservatives were up to 27, which implies a 22-point gap. However, in the last couple of weeks or so, it looks like Sunak's recovery has stalled. Redfield-Wilton found something similar. Their polling, also released on Monday, had the Conservatives down 4 to 26, and Labour up 5 to 50. And for context, if these results actually happened in a general election, the Conservatives would probably win less than 100 seats. Now, this is obviously a lot better than the 16 that Liz Truss would have won, but it would still be the worst result ever by either Labour or the Conservatives in modern political history. On top of this, Sunak's personal approval ratings also seem to have taken a hit recently, and are now apparently in negative territory. So, does this mean that Sunak is doomed? Are Labour guaranteed a 300-seat majority in 2024? Well, no, obviously not. These are only a couple of bad polls, and it'll be a mistake to infer too much from them. Nonetheless, the fact that he's already lost electoral momentum just a few weeks into his premiership, and when Labour are 20-something points ahead in the polls, it certainly isn't good news. And as things stand, it doesn't look like things are about to get all that much better. As we've detailed in previous videos and on our podcast, the economic situation in the UK over the next couple of years looks pretty dire. Forecasts released by the OBR to accompany Jeremy Hunt's much-anticipated fiscal statement on Thursday suggests that disposable income is set to fall by about 4.3% in 2023 and a further 2.6% in 2024, which implies a total drop of 7% over the next 2 years, leading up to election day. For context, this will be the largest drop on record, taking us back to 2013 levels of spending, and it would only be the third time on record that disposable income has actually fallen for 2 consecutive years. Now, this isn't entirely Sunak's fault, and it's worth saying that his fiscal statement was, if not brilliant, at least a lot better than Truss's mini-budget, insofar as it didn't spook the bond and currency markets overnight. Nonetheless, voters are unlikely to forgive the steepest drop in living standards since records began, and it's hard to see how he'll survive it. You get the idea then. Sunak's honeymoon period has already ended, and given the macroeconomic headwinds, combined with the fact that the Prime Minister usually gets less popular the longer they stay in the post, it's really hard to see him winning the next election. If anything, the question now is whether he can keep the Tories alive post-2024. Now, if they win the 100-odd seats they're projected to, that will be enough to keep them alive as a political force. However, if they win significantly fewer than that, less than, say, 50, it really becomes an open question as to whether they can actually survive the next parliament. After all, with just 50 seats, all of your funding dries up almost immediately. You lose your position as the official opposition, and quite quickly, you could become a piece of history. This might sound melodramatic, but it has happened to establishment political parties in the past. Just look at the socialists in France, or basically any party in Italy. Perhaps the key question, though, as to whether the Conservatives can survive post-2024 is what happens to the right of them. At the moment, the only real party to the right of the Conservatives are Reform UK, and at the moment at least, they're only polling on single digits. However, there is a contingent of Conservative voters who are sceptical about net zero, don't believe that the current immigration system is working, and also don't think that we're making the most out of Brexit. And those voters are exactly the kind of people who will vote for a party to the right of the Conservatives if it begins to look like a viable alternative. And this isn't just speculation either. A public first poll from The Telegraph found that 28% of the public, including 38% of Conservative voters, will be open to voting for a new party led by Nigel Farage. Clearly, if someone like Farage, or Farage himself, were to set up a UKIP-style party, the Conservatives would be at risk of electoral annihilation in 2024. And so, you get the point. Polling doesn't look good for Sunak at the moment, and he's a Nigel Farage away from an election result so bad that it could be the end of the Conservatives. And again, this video might end up looking melodramatic when we watch it back in 2024, because, as always, it's worth taking these polls with a pinch of salt. But if the numbers are to be believed, right now in 2022, Sunak is in a lot of trouble. This is an issue that we're going to have to watch play out though, as things like this often take forever to resolve. And if that hurts your head, then you should check out Brilliant's course on infinity. As a child, I always used to say that the very concept of infinity hurt my mind. And having now taken the course, at least I understand infinity now. But if I'm honest, it does still bother me. It's not just maths either. There's interactive courses on physics, computer science, and a whole variety of STEM topics. Plus, there's some incredibly fun content from your favourite YouTubers too, like Kurzgesagt and a brand new course from our Nebula friends over at Real Engineering. So finish off the year by bettering yourself with Brilliant, where you'll find thousands of incredible courses where you'll learn by doing, as well as discovering whole new ways of thinking. And better still, the first 200 people to sign up using our link in the description will get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching TLDR on Nebula. You can find more ad-free content right here by clicking the link to our channel.